about to react to some scary stories. I do have my ring light on. Sorry about that. I do have my ring light on because I am black as hell. I am black as hell with it off. But the whole house, the whole area is dark. So, yeah, let's get it.
Are quieter and the tips are better, but there is a
I also want to say that I'm making a Discord server so that in that Discord server you guys will be able to send me videos to react to as well. And like I'm literally we could talk in the Discord server too. But yeah, I'm pretty sure like when it comes out, I'll let you guys know. But yeah, let's continue.
trade-off. Every once in a while, you get a story that sticks with you, and not in a good way. I'd always thought of myself as careful. I've dealt with my fair share of odd passengers, but nothing, and I mean nothing, even came close to being as strange as what I'm about to tell you. I didn't have a dash cam at the time, and that night was the main reason I installed one. It started off normal enough, just me and the odd sounds my car would occasionally make. I've got this beat up 2005 Volvo, but it's reliable as hell. The streets were quite literally deserted, which like I said earlier, I preferred. Sometime after 2 p.m., I got a request from a convenience store nearby. Seemed harmless at first, but for some reason, I got this weird feeling in my gut about it. You ever get that feeling like something's off, but you can't explain why? That's exactly what hit me as I drove up. Before I even saw the guy, I figured out why I was getting that gut feeling. The convenience store I was pulling up to was closed, all the lights were off, and there was not a single car in the lot. As I pulled
I'm gone. I as soon as so say I'm rolling up, have the music bumping, boom, 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 rolling up. I see that it's closed. I see no one there. I'm just going right out and I'm gone. I'll be driving and I'll be call it. Like I'm gonna call the manager, be like, "Yo, the store is closed. Like, how am I supposed to work?"
pulled closer, I saw him. I made sure to drive pretty slowly so I could get a good look at him. He was pacing outside the store, wearing this ratty hoodie that looked like it hadn't seen a washing machine in years. I'm not kidding about that. There was literally a hole in the sleeve. His movements were jerky, like he couldn't stand still, and he kept glancing over his shoulder like he thought someone was after him. If I had to guess, he was on something. I probably should have just canceled the ride and driven away. I even hovered my finger over the cancel button, but I didn't for whatever reason. I unlocked the doors, and he slid into the back seat without a word. I regretted my decision the moment I took my foot off the brake. Most people either scroll on their phones or stare out the window, but not him. He just sat there, staring at me through the rearview mirror, not blinking, not looking away, just staring directly at me. I tried not to.
Not gonna lie, if I'm in the car, I'll be like, "Yo, you good, bro? Like, you wanna listen to some tunes? You know what I mean? Like, gotta engage a conversation, to feel safe. You know what I mean? Like, gotta blast music. If you ain't liking that new track, let's play a different track. Maybe I'll be like, yo, you like classical music? You like rock music? I'd be like, yo, bro, that guy Gunna, bro, you need to listen to Gunna's track, like Lil Durk, bro. Lil Durk, Lil Herb, bro. You know what I mean?
Stare back, but I couldn't help but catch his eye a couple of times. He looked kind of angry, which was also pretty unsettling. I tried to ignore him and turned on the radio to break the silence. I don't even remember which station I clicked on, but the moment the music started playing, he snapped at me to turn it off. His voice was deep and a little raspy, and I could tell he was a smoker right away. That kinda caught me off guard, and I jerked the steering wheel a little bit. I resisted the urge to look at him in the mirror and just did as he said, gripping the wheel a little tighter. I didn't say anything, and we drove in silence for a while. I thought maybe he'd just sit there quietly until we got to his stop. That's what I was hoping for, at least. But then he spoke. I remember the conversation like it was yesterday. He asked me if I ever picked up someone I shouldn't have. That question hit me like a brick. I let out this awkward laugh and said, well, I hope not. I was trying to keep it light, but he didn't react. He just leaned back and muttered something to himself that I couldn't hear. Then he started going on about how he used to be an Uber driver and he quit because some punks stole some stuff from his car. He was slurring his words a bit, so I couldn't make out everything he said, but I got the gist of the story for the most part. I looked in the mirror once or twice while he was telling me the story, and I realized he was smiling the whole time, which was incredibly unsettling. A normal person wouldn't smile talking about something like that. He concluded his story by saying, "It's funny how much trust you put in someone sitting right behind you." That comment was what did it for me. I started thinking about him as more of a threat than just a crazy drug addict. Unfortunately, there wasn't much I could do about it. I felt my pulse speed up. I kept my eyes on the road, but my mind was spinning. I glanced at the GPS, focusing on the destination like it was some kind of lifeline, but the guy did not know when to stop talking. He kept babbling about nonsense, some of it concerning and some of it just gibberish. I honestly couldn't keep up.
I ain't gonna lie, bro. This guy's gonna make me fall asleep. Holy.
Eventually,
I think I'm gonna react to someone else after this, bro. Like, these are boring.
he started apologizing to someone, although I don't think it was me. He began insinuating that he had just done something awful and that he was a bad person. He kept saying, "I didn't mean it," repeatedly, followed by a few frantic "I'm sorries." I didn't respond, worried that he'd do something if I did. I didn't know what he'd done or what he was capable of, but I wasn't about to find out. We were only a few minutes from his stop when he snapped out of his muttering haze and yelled at me that I had missed the turn. I didn't miss it. The GPS clearly showed we were on track, but I slammed on the brakes anyway, mostly out of fear. He demanded that I pull over, so that's what I did. My hands were shaking at that point. I just wanted the nightmare to be over. As soon as I shifted into park, headlights appeared behind us. It was a police car. I said a silent prayer and watched as it crept down the road, its spotlight briefly sweeping over my car. The guy in my back seat slouched down like he was trying to stay out of sight. I turned my head and saw him lying almost perfectly flat on my back seat with his eyes closed. I whipped my head back around before he saw me, trying to keep my breathing steady. He stayed in that position for a really uncomfortable amount of time. I wanted to ask him to leave, but decided against it. Eventually, he lifted his head and told me I had gotten lucky. Before I had a chance to do anything, he opened my car door and disappeared.
There is electromagnetic energy in that pyramid between 200 and 600.
I ended up calling my shift short after that. I was shaken up and didn't feel like driving around anymore. It wasn't until a few weeks later that I came across something on my phone that proved how dangerous of a situation I had been in. According to a news article, a convenience store had been robbed on the night I picked up that passenger. It was 2 blocks from where I had picked that guy up. It makes me sick knowing I was inches away from a dangerous criminal who could have harmed me if he had chosen to. I'm a little scared to contact the police about this. I try to avoid law enforcement for various personal reasons I won't get into. I'm not really sure if my report would even help. Either way, I'm much more cautious about who I let in my car.
Last camping trip.
Alright, watching a better one.
I chose a place an hour north from
I don't know
me.
what the heck that
I knew it was a little colder up north, but I didn't think it would be enough difference to matter too much. Besides, I was prepared with camping gear that was also rated for cold temperatures. I headed down there in the morning, arriving at the trailhead just a couple hours past sunrise. There were 2 other cars at the trailhead, one regular-looking minivan and one truck that looked like it'd been off-roading with
Had to get some food. And do you guys like it with like your noodles with the water in or with the water out? I prefer it out. It tastes better. But let me know in the comments if you like it with the water in. You're disgusting.
mud and scratches all over it. I parked and began down the trail. It was definitely chilly out, so I put my jacket and hat on. Not too long into it, I passed an older man with his kid who looked like they'd camped the night before, so that accounted for one of the cars.
Why does his head look like that?
When I got to the campsite, I figured there would only be one other group or person there, but it was empty. just a flat grassy spot near a flowing pond. No other tents or people. I sat my tent up on the edge near the trees. For the first little bit, I spent some time writing in my journal, but as the day went on, it got colder and colder. I got up and built a campfire to help keep me warm. It wasn't too long after that, someone else came walking down the trail. It was a man, maybe 40, and he wore a thick coat and a cloth covering his face. He had a small backpack, but when he passed me and went to the other side of the campsite, I noticed his bag was flat, like there was almost nothing in it. He sat down and leaned up against a tree. I thought he probably had a friend further down the trail that was on their way or something. But a while passed, I don't know, probably 45 minutes, and nobody else came. Also, the man didn't move. He was still just sitting against the tree and staring out at the pond. I didn't know whether to feel bad for him, or be creeped out, or what. But then, kind of out of nowhere, he got up and started walking over to me.
I ain't gonna lie, that's why I got my Swiss cheese. Yeah, I'm having that. What? Having that grip on me, bro. Pause. Having that grip on me, bro. In my ear. Finally, we could get to this. I had everybody calling me. I had everybody like my family coming up to me, talking to me. But let's get into it.
Fire. He stopped and sat down, smiling at me over the flame. Hope you don't mind if I share your campfire. It's much colder than I expected. I said it was okay, trying to be friendly, but also feeling a bit uncomfortable.
I would have said hell no. And I'm gonna have that grip on me too. I said hell no, what do you want? We out here. No one will hear you scream. Pause. I meant like if I
There was something off about his smile. The rest of his face just didn't match it. His eyes were droopy and tired, which made his smile seem fake. Did you bring a tent? It's probably gonna get colder tonight. He shook his head no, but didn't seem worried or concerned at all, still having that smile. After that,
cause he's gonna be sleeping in your tent. Yeah.
there was a good 10 minutes where we both just sat there in silence. During that time, I'd already made up my mind that I wanted to leave, but I was nervous about packing my things up right in front of him. But the sun was nearly set, so if I was going to leave, I'd have to soon. I stood up and went toward my tent, getting my sleeping bag from inside and rolling it up. I could feel the man's eyes staring at me the whole time, and when I turned around, he was looking right at me with that same creepy smile. He stood up, holding his gaze on me, then walked back to the tree he was by earlier. However, he didn't stop. He continued walking past it and into the woods, disappearing from my sight not too far in. I stood still for a minute, listening for his footsteps, but the forest was quiet. I didn't know what the hell was going on, but I was sure he'd be coming back any minute.
We out of there.
I hurried to get the rest of my things packed, and within 2 minutes, I was heading back down the trail. I left the campfire going, so that if he was watching me from a distance, maybe he'd think I hadn't left yet. The next 2 hours were extremely unnerving, walking in the dark and freezing cold, just hoping I wouldn't hear his footsteps rushing behind me. I made it to my car safely though, getting in and driving home. I noticed at the trailhead, the old truck was gone though, so if it wasn't his, I don't know how that man got there. Regardless, if I'd stayed that night, something definitely would have happened. The man was probably going out into the woods to get something, only to come back soon after and do whatever he was there to do. Or he could have been waiting out there, pretending to have left in hopes that I'd feel safe enough to stay the night. Just
Matt was trying to diddle you. Yeah. Man seen some young man cheeks. Cause he look like he ain't got no Gucci for days. Yeah.
to come back in my sleep. The imminent events of that night will probably haunt my thoughts for the rest of my life.
Juggling multiple client sites? Supercharge your productivity.
This was in 2016. I used to live in a remote town with a pretty close community. The whole landscape around the area was flat, dense forest, so basically the only thing to do was go for hikes or go camping. Otherwise, you'd have to drive an hour over to the next, slightly larger town. Me and my friend Matt would go camping a lot, and this time he said one of his other friends recommended a place that we could go, so that's where we went. It was only a 15-minute drive from the outskirts of our town. There was no parking though, we just pulled over on the side of the road. The trail was also very faint and thin, and not something that looked used very often. We walked down, and after an hour, we made it to the camp. Supposedly, there was a nice view of a lake, but his friend must have been messing with us, because it definitely was not a lake, or a nice view. It was more of a swamp, like a dark green overgrown pond. It looked like it could have been nice, a couple years ago, maybe. After laughing it off though, Matt pointed out a tent on the other side of the water. It was way too far to see anything specific, but it was just a lone tent sitting among the trees. Then my eyes drifted along the edge of the water, further down from the tent. There was a person watching us.
Woo! Woo! We gotta go. Woo! As soon as I see that, it's Mansford himself. I'm out of there. My homeboy could stay. Like, what?
They were standing along the pond, directly across from where we were. I did a quick friendly wave, trying to not make it awkward. We both assumed they were the ones staying in the tent. Anyway, we pitched our tents on a hill, away from the water, and carried on with our day. We played a couple games and had some long talks. During the whole day, we occasionally looked out at the water, and we both found it a little strange.
Okay. Did they have the talk about what if this guy approaches us? How are we gonna deal with him? We gonna jump him or are we gonna skedaddle? Or did they have a talk about, oh, I think we should skedaddle? Or what? Like, I don't know. What do you talk about when you're camping? I mean, I'll never go camping. I never went camping in my life. Like, bro.
That we never saw the person near their tent. They were either not there at all, or just walking around in the trees further away. As the day slowly turned to night, there were a few hours where we never saw them. We walked around and collected some scraps to make a fire with, then propped up our chairs close to the flame and made dinner. We were just chatting and having some laughs when Matt suddenly jumped up from his chair. His eyes were locked on something right behind me.
Ooh. Ooh.
Stood up and looked. Standing in the dark, there was the outline of someone standing only 20 feet away. They had long and disheveled black hair and were wearing dark clothing. The shadows covered them too much to tell if it was a man or woman, or if they were holding anything. "Hello?" Matt called out. "Are you okay?" I followed up with. They stayed there for a moment, then hurried away. I looked back at Matt, and although both of us were freaked out, we both nervously smiled, like, what the hell was that about? Honestly, this was so long ago, I don't even remember what excuse or theory we came up with for why they were there. We assumed it was the person we saw across the water, but that's all I remember. Whatever we came up with, though, it was enough for us to continue the night without being too spooked. Somehow, we even went to bed, which, looking back on it, I have no idea how. We were just young and overconfident, I guess. But in the middle of the night, I woke up to Matt quickly unzipping my tent and shaking me awake. He was breathing heavily and had a look of fear in his eyes. As I got out, he said he woke up hearing someone outside, and when he opened his tent, he saw that same person standing right by my tent. When they saw him, they ran. He was really freaking out, and I felt like I had
What? Bro, I'm smacking that guy, bro.
to keep a level head as best I could. Our only options were to test our luck walking down the narrow path in the dark, or staying at the camp. We decided to rebuild the fire and stay up all night. We had everything packed up though, in case we needed to make a run for it. As soon as the sun came over the horizon, we got out of there. That day, after discussing it, we decided to put in a report with our police office, just to maybe warn others about someone out there that was acting unusual. We were surprised to get a call back later that day to have us come in for questioning about something. Turned out, the tent we saw belonged to a missing person that had been gone for over a month. They searched the area, but found nothing else. They showed us pictures of the missing person, and both Matt and I were sure it wasn't the person we saw, which is extremely disturbing. Likely that person had something to do with the disappearance of the other person, and had Matt not woken up and scared them off, I probably would have been missing too.
Damn.
This game, you're not ready for it.
I'm definitely not.
This was only a month ago. It was late September, and where I'm at, we were having a lot of rain. Pretty much every day, it was pouring down. I work as an outdoor security guard for a warehouse on the outskirts of the city, so rain doesn't exactly make my job any more enjoyable. Luckily, the company I work for lets me stay inside on rainy nights, but it always made the shift go by a lot slower. Instead of getting to roam around outside the building, I just had to stand by the glass entrance doors and watch for anything. Anyway, this night I got in at 9, locking up the place after all the employees left. It was pouring outside, so I stayed in and stood by the door, and honestly just tried to stay awake. There was nothing to see except rain and the occasional thunder and lightning. A few hours went by. During that time, I just leaned against the wall and made a few trips to the bathroom. But then, as I stood by the entrance doors, fighting to stay awake, there was a deep, creaking thud. It echoed through the whole warehouse. It sounded like bending metal, or maybe a heavy metal door scraping open. It was enough to make the hair stand up on the back of my neck. I was sure it was nothing, and just a creepy sound because of the circumstances, but it was kind of my job to check on these things, so I walked down the hallway and looked.
Do y'all think security guards should have guns? Let me know in the comment. Give me like your reasoning too.
Looked through each of the corridors. I'd never actually explored much of the warehouse, since I was usually outside. All I knew of was the one main hallway that had 5 or 6 corridors branching from it, leading to large open warehouse areas. I looked down each of these, until I got to the last one. At the end, the door was cracked open. I felt a chill run through me, although I still didn't know if it was already opened or not. I walked over and opened it further. The whole room was dark.
Not gonna lie. If it was like that, I'm not walking in it. I'm just gonna shut it, cause like, you know, it could have been like open through like the wind or something. I don't know. Why do you guys like to explore, bro? Is it cause it's his job? Like, I don't know.
Hello? My voice echoed through the otherwise silent warehouse. After a few seconds, I started to step back and close the door until I heard something in front of me. It was a voice. It sounded like a man, either mumbling or softly laughing somewhere in the darkness near the tall shelving units. Is someone there? What the hell are you doing here?
Oh, that guy's a buster, bro. Like, why are you even saying that?
I called out. Come here. He said something softly. What? Come here. He said a little louder.
Ron is
Still, I
diddling.
couldn't see anything at all. After a couple more seconds, I said "F this" and closed the door. I used my radio to contact the police and left the building through the front. 5 minutes later, they showed up and walked through the building. They came out alone. Security tapes were reviewed, showing what looked like a 50-year-old man with a dark jacket slipping in through a gap in one of the back garages. From there, he made his way into the warehouse room, where I heard him in. And disturbingly, on the footage, it looked like he was holding some kind of knife. He made his exit soon after I left. We don't know why he broke in, or what exactly he was trying to do by telling me to come into the warehouse. It might sound weak of me, but I quit after that, and took up a day job instead.
Nah, he's done. He's done. Damn. I'm not gonna lie, I would have done the same thing too. No cap. I would have quit the same day. But yeah, I'm gonna catch you on the next one.